But it's
Won't do that
literally the
again.
thing your parents always tell you when you're growing up, and it's like, well, Jimmy told me to do it. And it's like, if he told you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? Welcome to the Money Lap.
I kind of look up mid taco bite.
You don't know disappointment. Talking all things motorsports by two real drivers.
I appreciate being called a gritty driver.
With many, many years of experience.
We've had to do that other people didn't want to do.
The most dedicated host in the motorsports podcast world.
Weren't we supposed to have somebody come on our show as a guest?
No, we did it.
Did we?
Yes.
Yes, for our 1 year anniversary.
And we definitely know what we're doing.
Remember, talk through your mic.
I'm talking past it like this.
Well, if you just pointed it differently. Never mind. Never mind.
Oh.
Never mind.
Let's
the
talk
stand
about
of his
race
mic.
cars. God's
This
sakes.
is our worst show ever.
Hello, welcome to the Money Lap. I'm Parker Kligerman, joined as always by my buddy Landon Cassill. This is our show about all motorsports. We dive into it all. Today, we're going to talk NASCAR Cup Series, Xfinity, F1, tons of new comments and reviews, and even a voicemail from all of you viewers and listeners of this stupid little motorsports show. Landon, welcome to the show.
Wait, why are we a stupid little motorsports show?
I don't know. I just kind of threw that in. It felt right at the time.
Felt right?
Yeah, it did. We're just a stupid little motorsports show.
Could you imagine just a first-time listener listening right now? And that was your intro?
You're like, why would I listen to this? I'm turning it off immediately.
Well, I didn't want a stupid little motorsports show.
Yeah, I wanted a big motorsports show. But, well, I guess we're big in ambition. How about that? We're big in
I
ambition.
know you usually intro these. We're going right into the Cup Series, but I've been wanting to say something, so I'll just say it here.
Mhm.
Did Denny Hamlin accidentally win this race yesterday?
He definitely did.
Like, did he win it by accident?
What did you text him? Lol.
That's what I meant to text. Oh yeah, well I texted Denny yesterday and said, "LOL, Denny." That's all I said.
And because I think his response in Victor Lane was pretty fun, or on the front stretch in his interview, he's just kind of like, "Yeah, won it. How about that?"
Yeah.
Picture
You know what's
got it.
funny? That's like one of those. I'll bet you he left the track with more confidence and swagger after a win like that than even a win like the one in Martinsville. Where
Really?
it's just like, yeah, I don't even gotta try to win. I can run fifth all day and I'll still win.
Just give me a little caution at the end.
Yeah,
Thanks,
like
Larson.
just give me a little bit. Just give me a little.
Yeah, I just gotta keep you in range and check. You guys can go lead like William Byron. You can absolutely
Don't
dominate.
wear
and-
yourselves out.
yeah, you can lead all the laps basically through stage 2
Yeah.
into stage 3 to the first green flag stop. But I'm still gonna beat you.
He's
How
like,
about
I
that?
didn't expend any mental energy. I didn't have to race anybody. I just, I just ran, just did a nice little 397-mile race, and then
Doop. See you guys later. How about that one?
in all seriousness, though, that the JGR pit department
Oh my goodness.
is like they are at their peak right now.
It's been the discussion all around. You have that crazy Jack move, which his Jackman got interviewed after by a couple people because that, basically that was the winning stop. Sub 9 seconds, absolutely insanely fast. And that Jack move where he tosses around his back and everything in one fellow motion is just so cool.
Yeah.
But they just did. It's insane what they've been able to pull off.
Which
in all their
JGR,
pictures.
their pit department has actually, now that you think about it, they've been really at the peak of it all for a better part of a decade. Like, their pit crews have their moments. I feel like Hendrick has their moments in terms of a pit department, but it's been everybody chasing JGR for the better part of a decade, I think, on pit road.
Well, how did we end up with common guns across the pit road?
Yeah.
Who forced that one?
Yeah.
JGR. Remember they went to the super high RPM one that they developed that sounded insane. You could hear it. It was like a high pitched, like super high pitched, high RPM. And that they were spending so much on it. That forced everyone else to do. And then eventually NASCAR got involved and was like, we're going to a common gun. Here you go. So
interesting.
They've always pushed the boundaries. Before we get into it too much, I just got to dive into some of our personal life stuff. I've been working on another big YouTube video. I don't really have a job during the week, if you didn't know. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but it's my life now. And you're probably just raking in the dough right now offering cars up that aren't tariffed.
Well, I will say the used car market is doing well right now in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. That's for sure.
Is it booming?
We had March was an all-time record month.
Let's go.
So, yes, all-time record of all
Booming.
time.
Business is
Beats some
booming.
years, which beats the other all-time record month that we had in December. So it's been month over month.
Wow.
Here, but we sold
Crazy.
184 cars retail in March.
Oh my goodness.
Nuts. Yeah.
All of Cedar Rapids, Iowa is driving a Cassill Motors vehicle.
So we have pretty much squeezed every department of our business when it comes to keeping up with demand. Our titles department is backed up trying to process titles. Our shop is backed up trying to get cars through the shop. So everybody's working hard.
Well, you guys may be the beneficiary of the big topic in the world of tariffs and all that's going on there and the global markets meltdown, which is insane. But I can promise you all this is a tariff-free show. We won't cost you anymore. You get it for free no matter where you are.
Yep.
There you go. That's the content. Our promise to you.
We just price our cars to market. Our cars, they go up with the market, they go down with the market. We have fully gone no haggle. So we don't negotiate car deals anymore. The price is the price. You come in, the car, if it's the right car for you, buy it. If it's not, then don't.
Good luck getting it elsewhere. How about that?
Well,
I'm sorry.
That
was mean. That was mean. That was mean. That was mean. That's just my side, my personal.
We did have one customer I think it was in February, that was shopping for one of the vans that we had, and they were like wanting to negotiate the price, and I was like, no, we don't. We sell it to the market, and they were like, okay, well, I'll check in a week, and they had a price change, and it was a price change. Finally, he came in and bought it, and it was like he got to buy it for the price he wanted, and we sold it to him, but end of the day, it was like, you know what? I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys being transparent about it all.
Love it.
So
Cool. All right. Well, we already jumped into a little bit. Denny Hamlin won at Darlington. The 24, William Byron, absolutely dominated the beginning portion of this race. And like 3/4 of the race, to be honest, until they had a green flag stop cycle in stage 3. He led every single lap from the pole. And I had some people chirping at me on the internet because I said, hey, look, I tweeted, this is not the most exciting race you're going to watch. But at some point, you have to start to think like, well, this is kind of crazy. This is essentially like a no-hitter in baseball, which I don't really know other sports, but I know that's a terminology. I know that's a thing. There's no hits. That's a perfect game. He's on pace to have an absolute perfect race, perfect weekend to win the pole, win both stages, lead every lap if he gets the right time caution there. He doesn't. We go into a green flag cycle. And we had seen earlier in the race where he struggled a little bit in traffic trying to lap cars. But suddenly he gets jumped by the 45 of Tyler Reddick, the 20. And we did some digging. He basically pitted 4 laps later than Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick was about 4.2 seconds behind the 24 when he pitted at lap 239. The 24 pits at lap 243. Loses the lead because of the tire fall off and the amount of speed that the 45 gained in just those couple of laps. Probably some traffic in there potentially for the 24 or something that screws him up and slows up his exit off of pit road in those subsequent laps after he pits. But the 45 ends up with a massive lead. And the 24 gets stuck behind the 20 and thus enters the 12, who rips through the field, was probably the fastest car earlier, but had some issues in pit road and such, so never got to show it. But the thing that the fans were chirping at me about was like, look, it's all about clean air. It's all about clean air, man. I still think it's damn impressive if the 24 had gone on to continue this with the right time caution, to lead that many laps, to win stages, to win a pole in the NASCAR Cup Series. I don't care if clean air or whatever. That's really damn hard.
Well, I think two things can be right at the same time. It is obviously, it is all about clean air, especially at Darlington because the track is so narrow, right? That's one of the, of all the intermediate tracks that have paired so well with the next gen, Darlington is kind of not one of them in that sense that it's so narrow that it has made it really hard to pass.
Yeah.
However, where I'm saying two things can be true at the same time, you don't just lead 252 laps of a race just because you had clean air. Like that doesn't, You know what I mean? Like that's clean air helped obviously, but he clearly had the dominant car and they kept up with it. It's just that one error on pit strategy in that last pit cycle, whatever the error was. You and I were looking at it. You said 4 laps. He pitted after the 45 car. That alone, 2 seconds a lap on new tires versus old like that. That's 8 seconds right there. He only had a 5-second lead.
Yeah,
which is a big lead, but I'm just saying like that alone is enough to cycle back around and lose the lead, right? My question is, why did they wait 4 laps after the 45? Was that a miscalculation on the 24? Was there somebody in the pit box in front of them or after them that caused them to like wait another lap? We didn't. That was one thing you and I didn't look deeper into. We were looking into a minute ago, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they would go 4 laps after the 45.
It is a good question. I don't know either. The only thing I can surmise is at the time you had a couple factors. One, you had some cautions in the stages when green flag stops started to start because people had issues. So maybe they're hedging against an issue, right? They do have a 4-second gap to play with, but as you alluded to, just 2 laps at 2 seconds a lap faster, and that's erased. You have the possibility of maybe someone in the pit box around them, that sort of thing. There is probably the thought that they are so fast, even with a 4-lap difference on tires, they would probably drive back by the 45, right? I think all those factors combined to be somewhat maybe what they were thinking, but at the end of the day, they've got all the tools in front of them. Oh, well, I guess the only thing is at the beginning of the race, there was no internet on pit road, so maybe they didn't have all the tools. But the tools and the thought process would tell you the 45, when he pits, you react. They just didn't. And they waited till the 20 pitted, and then they reacted. So maybe they just weren't paying attention to the fact that they're racing the 45. I would find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. To me, it's which they have more information than I do. So
Really?
to me, in that position, the 24, the position you're in, when you have a dominant car and you have a 5-second lead, my from the hip driver, strategy position is you just keep running until the 45 pits, and then you pit the next lap.
Yeah.
Right? Because with a 4 or 5-second lead, pitting 1 lap later is not enough to totally give up your lead, but it's enough. It's like that 1 extra lap on tires gives you a hedge, so you always have a little bit better tires. You just let them pit, next lap you pit, and you should be good. Right. So for them to go 4 laps longer, there was definitely a reason, and it didn't work out for them. But I'd love to know what that reason was.
Yeah, we probably have to get Rudy Fugel on the horn, figure out what's going on there. I could text him. Didn't think about it till right now. Not sure if we get the answer that quick. He's not a big texter. I wouldn't get a very long response. He's one of those guys, good guy. I've known him for a long time since I was at KBM, and he was at KBM. But he's one of those guys I got to kind of like pull the info from, a little bit. Just like, hey, man, come on, where are we going with this? Come on. And then you get it. You're like, oh, there it is. So he's all business all the time. But I think that was really what lost them the race. They get stuck behind the 20. With that, though, the 12 was just, you mentioned the idea of it being a single groove, or not a single groove, but a very tight racetrack. It doesn't allow you to get away from, it's narrow. To get away from the aero effect of the car in front of you, which this car, as we know, directly behind another car, it's terrible. What it does allow, though, is it's not as wide awake as the older cars, so you can get away from it at places that have multiple grooves. The 12 did that. He was running that lower line down in 3 and 4, which I love, which is planting your right sides on the hashed marks that almost like mark the aprons of the banking.
Yeah,
that was good. It was working for
run.
Oh, it's so good. So much fun. When it works, it's awesome. You feel like you're going around like an incredibly smaller racetrack than everyone else. You have to go way slower, but it works. The thing that stuck out to me, though, was the ability he had to just fly through the field, whereas this 24 car, to the point that 2 things can be right at the same time, he got actually like stopped, like couldn't even get close to passing the 20 there for a while. That's pretty wild to me, to be actually that dominant.
Yeah, that's you don't just that's not just cleaner, like we said.
Maybe it's not making the right adjustments. What led to the late race restart that took away the win from Blaney in some respects after he gets the lead by the 45. Also, the 45 was holding on for dear life, trying to get away from him. That was a pretty cool battle sequence there for like 5 or 6 laps where the 12's running him down and the 45 is touching the wall on the exit of 4 like 3 or 4 times. He's absolutely sideways. He's doing everything he can. Tyler Reddick at his finest on a wore-out racetrack up next to the wall, just absolutely holding on for dear life to get away from the 12. The 12 eventually gets by him. He nails the wall off of turn 2, and then we have a caution when Bubba Wallace runs in the back of Kyle Larson, who checks up for the 45 hitting the wall. Because from Kyle Larson's viewpoint, even on the broadcast from the outside viewpoint, when I saw the 45 hitting the wall, I was like, oh, he just killed it. Like, that's done. That car's over. Kyle Larson probably is coming off turn 2 there, many laps down, just trying to finish this race after his spin at the beginning. Checks up because he's thinking the same thing I'm thinking watching that, which is, oh, that car's about to fire off the wall and come back across the track because he just knocked the wall down off 2. He checks up and the 23 runs right in the back of him because he can't see it. And that causes a caution. I know there were some people that thought there was some conspiracy here, but I don't really think there is one.
Yeah, my Twitter algorithm is getting way too many of the conspiracy-like posts.
Yeah, conspiratorial is correct. You were right.
Yeah. That's just a bummer deal.
Yeah.
Feel bad for Larson on that one. Poor guy. Wrecked in the first 4 laps and he wrecked in the last 4 laps.
Off the turn 2. But like identical times. We got video here if you're watching on YouTube of the 45 pounding the wall. He just nailed it off of turn 2. And the 5 car, I mean, it's like, he almost overlaid his tire marks from the first spin. That's so wild. Well,
that's such a tough part of the track.
It is so tough. It is so hard for TV or us who have driven that section of the racetrack to describe to you what is actually happening at that point. You turn off the wall, and I always think about the qualifying lap in an Xfinity car there, because you turn off the wall in a qualifying lap in an Xfinity car, you're basically trying to get flat out again before you ever get to the entry portion of turn 2. And you basically commit to the throttle at a point where like everything tells you you're going to hit that wall. But you have to trust that as you load up the banking, the car kind of just gains enough grip, and then it releases on the exit. There's a bump right there. And as it does all of that, you stay committed to the throttle because you know it's just going to catch suddenly. So it's just an amazing leap of faith that you're going to do lap after lap after lap. It gets a little simpler on older tires at times, but it also gets sketchier if you're in traffic because you just, every time you come off that corner, have to take this leap of faith that it's going to stick and not do what Reddick did, which is pound the wall.
Yeah.
Did I describe it well?
You know one thing that I didn't notice in conversation this weekend as much as past years?
What's that?
Talk about a patch.
Because it's basically done.
It's gone.
Well, it's just, it's wore out. Last year compared to 2023 was a huge adjustment in that patch, a big adjustment in 2022. And what we're referencing, there's a patch in turn 2 that showed up, 2021, I want to say?
I think it was 2021, 2020 or 2021.
Somewhere in there.
They repaved basically just the exit of turn 2 in its entirety. And I got to say, this is when they did the patch off of 2. I think it reignited my love for Darlington in a sense that you can do whatever you want to Darlington, and I don't think you're going to you're only going to make the track more interesting.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like, it just, they paved the patch, and it's like, oh, they ruined turn 2 or whatever. What's going to happen? And I raced on it when the patch was brand new, and it was awesome.
Oh, I did too.
The track was so slick, and tires wore out everywhere else. And then you get on this patch, and it was like a turbo mode.
Yep.
And then,
and then it was like,
it would catch you. It was strategic. You had the balance of your car over the patch had to, was tough to balance those needs versus the balance of the car everywhere else on the track. And then as the patch aged, it still sort of had this effect on everything. And it just was, you just can't screw that place up.
No,
it's so
awesome. It's just the best. It's a great stock car track. Unfortunately, it's not proving to be the best next gen track, but I still think it's a great stock car track. It's great design because it wasn't designed. That's why it's a great design. It was just sort of made, and that's how became what it is. And that patch, like you were talking about, when it was new, you would basically throttle up to it, like all sliding around sketchy, and then you'd get to it and it would just catch the car. You're like, okay, back to full throttle. And it was such a wild thing. But it's definitely losing that grip. Like, there's no doubt about that. And that's why you're not hearing about as much about the patch. And there's that big bump on the exit 2 where the patch rejoins into the old asphalt. It definitely like unsettles the car, and you see them bounce around and everything. And Josh has got good video here of when the patch was newer, and you could see what it was way darker, and now it's kind of become the same light.
Yep.
This is the asphalt that's already the old asphalt.
Such a good racetrack. Great stock track.
Yeah. One more thing I wanted to point out, and I don't know how Josh is going to find this, but good luck for him for you watching on YouTube. The 5 car, when he came back on to the track after his first incident, they had like that metal bare bond stuff, laser tape stuff that you put on to like sort of, patch up cars in a way that the front looked like it had a valence and like the front was on the ground. And if you look at it, look how, I mean, I wish we had a high res photo and I'd planned this out. It looks so cool. Like it looks like a 2005 stock car. I hope we can find it somehow, if Josh can. But I'm telling you, if you looked at it,
you're throwing me to the wolves right now.
I know. Sorry.
Do they do they have wind tunnel time anymore? Do they still go to the wind tunnel?
No, just the manufacturers do.
Okay. I was gonna say, if that were like 10 years ago, I would tell you that that they tried that in the wind tunnel. That they've done like damage repair in the wind tunnel to see what is the best way to fix a car.
Mm-hmm. Like when you make the right rear way larger, that sort of thing. Or beat in the right side door, that sort of stuff. Yeah. It just, I don't know. It looked really cool. I thought it was fun. For all the nostalgia people out there, it looked a little it added to the throwback because he had that scheme of Taylor the Body, and it looked like
give me something to look for on the internet now.
Yeah, you guys, you can all search for it. You'll see what I'm talking about. Speaking of throwbacks, a lot of conjecture about the throwbacks this past weekend. A lot of drivers saying, initiated by Chase Elliott, that he felt like it was played out. I think that was reiterated by William Byron, Bubba Wallace, a couple others. I see their point. I'm kind of with them in that. I still find it fun and interesting. I will say this, and I tweeted it, that when I turned on the broadcast on Sunday, I had no idea who the hell was who. Like, I'm looking at the cars, and I'm like, wait, who's that? And I'm looking at the leaderboard, then looking back at the car, the leaderboard, back at the car, leaderboard, back at the car, leaderboard, and I'm like, oh, this would be pretty confusing if you weren't. And like, I obviously am very involved in this sport, and I was having a tough time figuring out who the hell was who.
Can I make I've thought about this over the weekend, and I kind of can go back and forth on it because I understand.
Debate yourself.
Yeah, that's what I'm good at. I understand what Chase is like, where he's exhausted over. However, Chase is a bit cynical, and that's his personality anyway, sometimes in these deals.
Yep.
So I'm taking that with a grain of salt because I saw what he said, and my initial reaction was like, yeah, I've been kind of over it at times too. And I'm tired. It's, these teams, it's just exhausting to be that creative and think of throwback schemes and all this stuff. But then, it's embraced every single time a little bit different by somebody else. And I think it is still so cool to see some of the throwback stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I think. The track itself, and it's perfect that we're coming into Masters Week here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Masters is a throwback event without being a throwback event, right? Like, it is a classic traditional event that is like held on to its tradition for so long, right? And I feel like Darlington could have the same thing without, even if it got away from the whole, okay, every team get your throwback scheme and who's doing throwbacks and who's not, and da-da-da-da. Like, the track itself and the event itself, both events, like just Darlington Raceway in itself should be a throwback experience. The signage, the branding, the facilities, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, no, they got it. They got the bathrooms in the Xfinity garage that are definitely a throwback.
Yeah, they're leaking piss out of the bottom of the urinal, like the whole thing. Like, it's a total throwback.
No locks on the stall doors.
No. That to me, I think if we had some kind of version of, the teams can do whatever they want. Like the official throwback weekend is, no more, or it's not, it is, or it isn't, whatever. I don't know. I could go back and forth on that, but I would say Darlington as a facility should, if I were in charge of that place, like the brand of that racetrack should be rooted in whatever year, 1965, right? Like it should just be rooted in that time period. All the facilities, the branding, the colors, the the concessions, which it's probably got modern concessions and things like that.
I think it kind of is with that. The red
Maybe
and white
it is.
wall.
Maybe I haven't been there to see what kind of concessions they serve and how the menus look and what the feel is and the seat backs and all that stuff. But it's like you can say maybe it is, right? But I'm just saying it should be. It should continue to be that way. They should as they make improvements to their facilities, they should do it. Continue to do it under this guise of tradition and during a throwback time period. And and that should just be the brand of that speedway. If the teams come with modern paint schemes or if they don't, doesn't matter to me, right? If the whole idea of the industry comes back with a themed paint schemes and themed not that doesn't matter to me as much as the track should be a throwback facility. You should feel like you're walking into a time capsule. You should feel like you're in a 1960s NASCAR. I'm careful saying that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I was like, wait a second.
Certain things don't need to be there, but
yeah, certain things we don't need to go back on. Jeez.
But you know what I mean. The good
I
stuff.
know what you mean. I think it's already there. I think they've kind of accomplished that. I think the paint scheme stuff is fun, and I actually it's where it's grown outside of NASCAR a little bit has been really exciting for me in terms of you had the 21 car, which was back to Jim Clark's Lotus.
Oh, so good.
That was so cool. My old team, Big Machine Racing, did a number 48 Bobby Unser in 1975 Indy 500 winning car throwback scheme. So just sort of relating to other motorsports a little bit. I thought that was kind of cool. And I find that fun. And for one weekend of the year, kind of cool to see all that stuff, tell some of those stories, that sort of thing. I would say as a viewer, if you were just a general viewer, you had no idea this was happening, and your Twitter algorithm isn't all NASCAR like ours, you would show up and be very confused.
Makes no difference. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because I know when the NFL guys have done throwbacks, I've turned it on and they have these different jerseys on. I'm like, who the hell's who? What is this? And I just sort of figure it out. So I don't think it's a big problem. I will say this. The last thing I'll say is that I think the drivers and the teams being within the bubble, right? They could be tired of it. There's no doubt in my mind.
For sure. For sure.
You're
because they've done a different
one
one every time and the creative and the art and all this stuff. So I guess that's where my point is to me, the value in that throwback that I've maybe realized myself that I care the most about is I love seeing them recognize those paint schemes, especially when they're well executed. Right. And the Wood Brothers is one that's they always do a good job, and then you kind of get into the Xfinity series and really there's only a handful of Xfinity teams that execute a good throwback scheme. The rest of them are way forced and not great, but to me, it's
ouch.
To me, it's the track that we should be focusing on for throwback weekend, right? It's that facility. It's just what Darlington means. I know it's for the whole sport, but it's just it's to me, it's about Darlington. It's about the track, right? And so the competitors, aren't the highlight of throwback weekend to me. It's the track. It's going to Darlington and experiencing a classic stock car race, the classic Southern 500 on Labor Day weekend. And what does that mean? What is it like to go to that track? And you're the bleachers are right up against the track, and you have the fans singing the national anthem with the, you know what I mean? It's that is what that throwback weekend is about to me. They could run modern paint schemes for all I care, right? They don't go to the Masters and, they're still using modern.
They don't wear knickerbockers and
they're not. Hats. I mean, it's they're not
wooden
dressing like that for at the Masters. It's just the Masters itself is a traditional event, right? It's just rooted in tradition. And to me, that's what the Darlington Throwback Weekend should be, is just so focused on that facility and that event. But the throwback schemes to me, I just as a compliment, it added to it. The quality of them, I wonder what it would be like if NASCAR approved the throwback schemes a little bit more, to where it's like they only let a handful of teams run throwback schemes, so that they were all so it didn't water them down. My personal rule of thumb on throwback schemes is
I've heard it a million times.
You either have to have the number, you have to match the number of your throwback scheme, you have to match the sponsor of your throwback scheme. You don't have to have both, but you got to have one or the other to have a properly executed throwback scheme. Otherwise, it's really, really hard to pull off.
Yeah, then it makes no sense.
If
you don't have the
same number or the same sponsor,
not working out. Sorry.
You need to audit our throwback schemes for NASCAR then this year. How did we do?
Well, like on the Carnomaly scheme did not have the number, but it has the sponsor, right? So you're able to use the font of the sponsor and the paint scheme, and you just simply change the number, and you've got a perfect throwback.
And if you're listening and not seeing this, we're showing one of our 2 NASCAR cars for Tuesday night. We got the Carnomaly car that you ran in the night Daytona race, right, Landon, for Gaunt Brothers?
Yep.
And then we've got the Toyota scheme that I ran for Gaunt Brothers, the TRD scheme on the 69 with Tyler Gary. So that's Logan Clampett and Tyler Gary. They're running for us in NASCAR. I like this one. Actually, that scheme, someone just tweeted at me. Do you know that I still hold the fastest race lap in NASCAR Cup Series history at Talladega?
Really?
Yeah.
How fast?
In that scheme. I want to say the mile per hour was 206 or something. And the lap time, though, I'd have to find the tweet. Hold on. I meant to tweet back at this person, but I got distracted earlier today.
46.530.
There you go. 46.530. Tail in the field, 2019. Got a monster draft. Boom. Fastest lap. I remember because that year it was the fastest lap in the Cup Series. And so I was the fastest man in the Cup Series. It's my one accolade in the NASCAR Cup Series. All right. Let me have it. Okay. Jeez.
Does that beat the Daytona lap record mile per hour?
I don't know.
If it does, then you might be the fastest man in NASCAR all time
in a race.
So the throwback on Tyler's car of your time driving. What was the actual sponsor on that? It was like Toyota
TRD.
It was TRD. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's not as good as Throwback.
No, it didn't. It
because nothing matches.
Your rules. Well, I was 96 and it's 69. So we kind of just took the numbers and flip them around.
It's close, but it does not. That's not a good throwback. It's an okay throwback.
TRD doesn't exist TRD doesn't exist anymore. We sent an email, but it bounced back.
That's right.
Said doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's GR. There's TRDs no more.
The car anomaly throwback definitely wins that one.
Yeah, it does. That's fine.
Which that's a killer paint scheme, anyways. You can't go wrong with.
No, it was a great one. It's a really good looking scheme. Really cool. So,
but yeah, so I like that's where, and you take the 5 car of Kyle Larson this weekend, right? They didn't have Kellogg's on the car, but they had the number 5, and so it was a well executed throwback because it was the right number and the right paint scheme, and then it was almost an afterthought that it didn't actually say Kellogg's on it.
Wait, can you see your screen right now?
Yeah, I can see it.
For those listening, we found a screen grab here. Josh did of what I was talking about. Look at the front of that car.
And we have to disclose. We get for the audio listeners. We got to talk about what we're seeing here.
Yeah. So the front of the car has that metallic tape and everything, and they did all this stuff to try and fix it. And the front end is like pushed down so much, which would be terrible to drive for the next gen car because you want all that air to go underneath. So that's why the front ends are so high in the air. But if you look at it, it looks like sealed off, almost like a. It looks like a
stock car,
like a stock car, like it used to look like. It's kind of. Well, I don't know.
Shame on us that stock cars should be sealed off.
I know. Well, I know. That's terrible. I mean, it just looks like it has a valence. That's what it really looks like to me. It's not sealed off, but it looks like it has a valence. So it's just an illusion that looked kind of cool to me. Very throwback.
Interesting.
All right. Speaking of Kyle Larson, some news out there I find kind of fun because we don't see this as often as we used to in the past. He has a PSA with Prime Hydration, which is that, drink kind of like all the super electrolyte drinks that you've seen pop up, BioLite, these guys. What's the other ones? I can't remember them all. You have Liquid IV and Body Armor IV, and I've drank all of them. Anyway,
I like. What's your favorite? I
like that BioLite one, and then there's the one that is RFK got a sponsorship with that I absolutely love. You can only have like one of them because your blood pressure go through the roof, but they fix a hangover legitimately anytime. What's the name of it? What's the RFK? They sponsor RFK. I know they have a deal with them.
I'm looking at their sponsors right now.
I don't know.
It's a military themed one. It was designed by like some people out of the military. It's so good.
Isn't Prime the one that like is like has like
Logan.
some insane amount of?
Well, this one doesn't have caffeine, but that's Logan Paul and some other guy. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, the reason I brought it up was they are making a Kyle Larson edition that they're putting in select retailers. That's kind of fun. Blaney has that with Body Armor. So
that's 2 primes, by the way, in 2 weeks that Kyle Larson is teaming up with. You got Amazon Prime last week, and now you got Prime Hydration this week.
That is a little confusing.
Wow, Prime guy.
You think they'll end up in a trademark dispute over who gets to use Prime with Kyle Larson? Kind of like
I don't know, big Prime guy. Can we continue talking about the Cup Series racing?
Yes. Moving on.
We're going to talk about Bristol here.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
And I think you had some notes here about PJ1. Bristol's this weekend, right?
It is. Yeah. This is the spring Bristol. Welcome to
is this not? Landon. Have we? Well, hold on a second. I'm like realizing. Is this not like the absolute strongest schedule start to a NASCAR season there's ever been?
In what way?
Like it is just like great track after great track. Why is it clicking to me like that? Like we haven't started. It's not like they're going to Texas this weekend. We don't need to watch. It's like no. Daytona, Atlanta, Coda. I mean, I guess we did have Phoenix can be a bit of a people can be not so much about Phoenix.
Yeah.
And
they did a good job.
Vegas, but like Martinsville,
I think the only big difference
Darlington, Homestead.
Yeah, they went to Homestead.
Bangers.
I think that's the only real big difference is Homestead being this early in the year, which has flip-flopped a couple times in the last few years since it lost the championship finale. It's gone back and forth between being early in the year and late in the year. And then you have what else is sticking out that's missing? You don't really have Texas this early, which is a win for everyone.
Well, yeah, it's a good schedule.
Poor Texas. You mentioned it though. The big news back to PJ1. No longer what we had last year, which was they attempted to use the resin instead of PJ1. And then I think they put down some PJ1, but it wasn't the same application style that they've done in the past and that sort of stuff. And the resin, it was just way different. I didn't like it. I ran the Xfinity race last year and just if you're going to do that stuff, use PJ1. I don't know. I've always had a knack for it and liked how it felt and what it does in making the bottom work. And I felt like the resin stuff didn't. And then we had a cup race in which Kyle Larson led like 900 million laps, 99.9% of the laps. And it was just not the Bristol you wanted to see. So back to PJ1 we go.
Is PJ1 was kind of the one that you could track up the racetrack too, right?
Yes. It's still going to do that for sure.
Like they all did that to some degree, but I felt like PJ1, you're going to see black marks going up the track.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what they're looking for. I would anticipate some pretty high speeds if they're putting PJ1 down.
Yeah, it's going to be chilly. It's going to be colder. So I'm racing the trucks Friday night. So
what's that going to do for the tire wear stuff? Because remember, that was our situation here last year.
I know. I don't know. It's going to be cold
again. Because
it was
colder. It was colder last year, which meant the rubber did not adhere to the track. Didn't get hot. It just wore out.
Yep.
Right? So instead of getting hot and then sticking to the track surface, it was like a cheese grater, just wore out, and then we had that crazy tire saving race.
Yep.
You pair that with PJ1, the high corner speeds.
Oh,
Oh,
baby.
we might be in for a doozy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Crazy.
We'll see how
Crazy.
that goes.
Yeah.
Speaking of doozies,
Oh, really?
now new and improved at spoilerdiecast.com. Here's a
Oh,
doozy.
what's this?
Use code MONEYLAP, not just for free shipping over $20. You get free shipping over $20 if you use code MONEYLAP. But if you use code MONEYLAP in April, you get a free 64 scale diecast with any purchase using code MONEYLAP. Because spoiler diecasts are basically like us as kids, they also have a whole crap load of vintage Gordon, Earnhardt, Labonte, like just all kinds of, they got all kinds of stuff to just throw in. Basically, I don't know if they just raided my basement diecast selection or what, but to carry on with the spirit of Throwback Weekend and Darlington and classic stock car racing, if you use promo code MONEYLAP on spoilerdiecast.com in April, you get a free 64 scale diecast in addition to free shipping over $20. If you are a racing enthusiast looking for high quality diecast and apparel, look no further than spoilerdiecast.com. They are one of the fastest growing companies in the industry. Parker, they pride themselves on exceptional service. All their orders ship either same or next day. So you get that free shipping and same day shipping, especially if you get it in, before like 12, 1 o'clock. Using that promo code MONEYLAP, you've got your free shipping over $20. Get your 64 scale diecast for free thrown in the box. You get a smooth and affordable shopping experience with SpoilerDiecast.com. They've got over 1,100 unique products in stock was the last number. We got to get an update on that one. One of the largest industries in the industry. They're NASCAR focused.
Wait. One of the largest industries in the industry.
One of the largest inventories in the industry. Sorry. They're one of the largest. If you like industry,
we've got all the industries.
If you like industries, if you like large industries, let me introduce you to one of the largest industries in the inventory. They're NASCAR focused a little bit like us, but they got a little bit of everything. So you can get your dirt, sprint cars, IndyCar, F1, all the good stuff. Longest spoiler diecast ad read ever.
How many products did you say they have?
1 million.
Over 1,900 right now, as of
over
record.
1,900. Jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna update it.
Josh, it's the largest inventory in inventories.
Dude, that's
Did you not know?
Crazy. Do they have an inventory of the inventory itself?
They got all the inventory.
They've got all the industry.
It's a recursive
So,
inventory.
Let's get back to the show.
I think we should get back to a couple points on that incredible read that you just did. First and foremost, if you use code MONEYLAP in April, you are eligible for a free 164 diecast. As he mentioned, they have a bunch of vintage Gordon, Earnhardt, Labonte, etc. So if you do use code MONEYLAP, that's what you're eligible for to get as well. If you spend over $20, you get free shipping. So we just want to point this out. A little different than what's been the past. Nobody's immune to the tariff situation out there, but our buddies at Spoiler Diecast going above and beyond to make it a great experience for you if you use code MONEYLAP. And we do have to announce a winner. So last month, using code MONEYLAP, it made you eligible to win a signed number 48 Spike Coolers diecast of mine from last year in 2024. Well, we have our winner from that giveaway, and that was Ron. I'm not going to use his last name. We're not doxing this time, from Kentucky. So if you're Ron from Kentucky, I think it's Ron Swanson, maybe. Yeah, okay. If you're Ron from Kentucky, congratulations. Enjoy the diecast. Thanks for using code MONEYLAP at Spoiler Diecast. Good guys.
You know what they say, Parker?
What's that?
Death, tariffs, and Landon making a Freudian slip on the show.
I thought it was taxes. Death, tariffs, and taxes.
Yeah, I didn't think we did taxes anymore. I think it was just tariffs.
Oh, no, we just get tariffed. There is no taxes. Right. So, speaking of which, something that's happened for the first time in a long time, like the tariffs out there. Brandon Jones won an Xfinity Series race in over 90 tries. Finally gets it done again at Joe Gibbs Racing. Wins at Darlington. The guy has a knack. He's won there before. has a knack for winning there. Martinsville, Kansas. Not really sure what it is with him in Darlington, but beat some Cup drivers as well to do it. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, I just I called a Joe Gibbs winner at Darlington. I just didn't call the right one.
You did.
I feel
had
like
the most common
JGR.
car.
I feel like JGR Xfinity car at Darlington has got to be easy mode.
Don't even talk to me about it. Don't even talk.
It's
Like
to drive a JGR car at Darlington, Phoenix, and Fontana. Like,
yep. Just
you could just
unlock.
run those 3 races a year, get your wins, stay home the rest of the time. Unfortunately, we don't race at Fontana anymore, let alone that track even exist. But the JGR speed at Fontana was obviously enough that it's ingrained in my brain.
Yeah. We did have some beef after the race. Anthony Alfredo was annoyed with Leyland Honeyman for an incident that they had down in turn 1. Said there was no real verification process for getting eligible to race in the series. Mentioned how he overdrove the corner and drove into another car, which was the Harrison Burton 25, and then came down and took out him. I think it was a lot of frustration from Anthony's part. Had a tough start to the year. He's had good speed, hasn't got a ton of results from it. Let that out in an interview a little bit. So I don't know if you saw that incident. I didn't have a lot to offer on it because I felt like there was 3 or 4 cars going for the same real estate in a turn 1 at Darlington, which is always difficult. And the way, this precipitated, it's aggressive, probably could have done a better job in Leyland Honeyman's case of sort of backing out from the 25. The 25 is in an awkward position because he's coming backwards on older tires, and they all kind of end up getting to the same place at the same time. So a little bit of a Darlington racing incident, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's just a tough spot. 3 wide is possible. It is not recommended.
No. It will lead to a wreck sometimes.
I will say Leland Honeyman did make a comment that I felt was a little silly. He said that the spotter did not let him know of the car in front of him.
Oh, there
I
it
didn't
is.
see that one.
Blame the spotter.
Oh, jeez.
Maybe
if I'm remembering correctly.
That should be the that should be the the one thing that gets your license revoked.
If that's
it's like
true,
it's like Alfredo like Anthony Alfredo gets out and he's like, NASCAR's licensing system is bullshit and they let anybody in, and my reaction to that is like, well, Anthony, I don't know. And then Leland's like, my spotter, and it's like, yeah, you're right, Anthony, get him out. It's like, yeah, never mind. He's right.
Just get that out.
Yeah, get him
What
out.
are you doing?
That's fine.
What are you talking about? Honestly, when I hear anything about the spotter being anything like, I feel like at some point someone has to realize like they're not driving the cars. So I don't care what they tell you. If
you're responsible for the
you're
car.
responsible to drive the car and make the right decisions there. And when I hear that, it makes me like right now I just wanted to walk off the show. Just be like, I'm done. Screw it. I'm over. Like,
well, and actually my serious response to that is like, Leland, own the wreck and fire your spotter. Like, if you know what I mean? Like, if he's wrong, if he's not telling you the right information and it's not, it's causing you to get into a wreck or whatever, then get rid of him, but don't get out of the car after a wreck and be like, my spotter wrecked the car.
Yeah. No.
Even if you firmly believe, even if you firmly, but if your spotter told you to turn right and you did, and it just where there was a wall there,
well, it's
don't get out and be like, my spotter told me to turn right, and so I did.
Well, but it's literally the thing your parents always tell you when you're growing up, and it's like, well, Jimmy told me to do it. And it's like, if he told you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? It's like, well, no. So same thing as spotter. If he tells you to do it and it's not correct, don't do it. Like, you have to have that mental capacity. There's no blaming the spotter. Sorry. Nope. Game over. I agree with you. You blame the spotter, you get the F out. Take a week off. So
we're being hard on poor Leland.
I know we are. Sorry, buddy. Sad news out of the Truck Series. As of yesterday and today, Truck Series team owner, former IndyCar driver, Shige Hattori, died in a motor vehicle crash Saturday in Huntersville. He was 61 years old. For those that don't remember, HRE, Hattori Racing Enterprises, was his team. They won the title with Brett Moffitt back in 2018. Just sad because he was a cool guy. I actually met with him one time back in 2015, I want to say. He had an Xfinity car that he was running part-time, and I potentially went and drove it a little bit. Ended up not doing a deal, but it was a nice guy. It was a nice meeting. One of the nicer meetings I had in that period of time when I was really trying to find anything to drive. So I don't know if did you ever deal with Shiggy?
No, I
all the
didn't.
stuff you
I
did?
I
Okay.
didn't deal with Shiggy at all. I never got a chance to drive for him. Was always somewhat adjacent to him because I had spent so much time and worked with Marty Gaunt a whole lot in my career, and the Germains, and the Hillmans. They were all kind of on that hill in that area where
Yep.
the Hattori Racing shop was. Always kind of wanted to drive for him at one point because he had such good equipment, and when he was around, the stuff was fast. Just never the stars never aligned, but I always respected what he was able to put together.
Definitely. No, I
So-
was same boat. Like when I think back, it was that same reason. It was like, man, those are nice cars. They always run well. They're well presented. All their stuff was nice. It was like, I want to go drive those. And so, yeah, I thought it was close at one point, but very sad, and he will be missed. So,
Yeah.
thoughts and prayers with his family. Open wheel world went to Japan this past weekend in Formula One, and it was not wild. It wasn't at all. I tried to stay up for this, which the Money Lap boys helped me out in terms of texting me. I said I actually fell asleep about I was like so full of energy at 11 o'clock, and then I fell asleep at 12. Set my alarm for 12:55. I wake up, they start this race, and within 10 laps, I'm like, oh no, this is going to be a snooze fest. Back to sleep.
Mhm.
It was supposed to potentially rain at 20 laps in. It didn't. Max Verstappen dominated. He had one close call with Lando Norris out of the pits where they came out side by side, and then Lando just drove himself directly into the grass, thinking there's maybe asphalt there, hoping it would work. It didn't. And so Max got stayed in the lead and drove away and won. The only impressive part of the whole weekend, before we get into the Sonoda Lawson stuff, was the qualifying lap by Max was unreal. He found performance in areas that no one else did, just strung together the most perfect lap, wins the pole by hundredths of a second, and that was the game changer for him on the weekend. No one was going to get by. And I think the crazy part is when you look at practice and you look how close Sonoda was through practice, and then they get to qualifying, and there Max shows up, and boom, he's in a different zip code. Sonoda qualified 16th. He gets the pole and beats the two fastest cars, once again cementing that he's an absolute alien. Just incredible.
It is incredible. I so many thoughts on it, right? Like,
Okay.
and first of all, makes you wonder like what Checo could be doing in the car.
Yeah.
Would he be running sixth, and we'd be talking about him for
Mhm.
running sixth, or did Red Bull, take that much of a step back this year, and Max is still sort of stepping up? And then the real thought, not the what if thought, but this is the more insight that I want to talk to you about is, I think that this is just further proof, and more to this storyline, to my belief, that Red Bull is obviously falling off, right? They're obviously not there. And they obviously have an elite level driver, but the car is tailored to him, right? It is so tailored to him. And that is the combination of, he's great and he's overperforming the car, but also like now it's just that everything is just so tailored to his driving style, to the point that like the car doesn't have enough performance to accommodate anybody else's driving style.
Yep.
That's my take. That's my outsider's perspective on this.
Well,
And I felt that way to, I felt that way at times, at Colleague Racing with AJ, right? That like there were time periods where the cars as a whole weren't what they needed to be, but the setups were so, AJ's ability to drive those cars, and then the way they could tune the setups around him was able to like squeeze just enough more performance out of him that on his best day he could get that top 3, right? Or even race for a win.
Yep.
Right. And I feel like that is happening at Red Bull, where it's just like they're kind of like they're losing. They've obviously lost their hold on the field. And so the last little bit that they have a hold on is like, okay, we can, they're just able to accommodate Max's needs. And Max is getting squeezing that last little bit. And then and honestly, the turnover they've had in that second car, it only perpetuates that fact. Right. Because now it's like you had Checo who was slipping, he was falling behind. So then you had a driver change. And then 2 races later, you have another driver change. I'm almost convinced now that it's like from here to the end of the season, I don't think there's any driver you could put in that car that's going to come within a half second of Max,
which is insane.
Right? And
it's
so,
insane.
like that, you're just gonna have that second Red Bull car. It's like at this point, I'm just convinced it's going to run 10th the rest of the year.
So,
right?
Well, I have 2 things. There's going to be people who disagree with you in the fact that the car's tailored for Max, quote unquote, as much as it's like he's the only one who can extract performance from it. Where it's just, this is where they've ended up, right? Which talked about where they talked about the idea that they had to keep adding front downforce just to stay competitive with the McLaren, and therefore it's just made it a super twitchy car. And obviously his confidence is super high. He's got nothing to lose. He can drive with the idea that if he just throws the thing into the barrier, no one's going to judge him. He's Max Verstappen. He's the GOAT, right? That sort of thing. So he's able to be a little bit more on the ragged edge. I thought Tsunoda did a really good job in practice to be right with him. Closest we've seen. And then obviously just did not extract the performance in qualifying that Max was able to extract. One other thing on that I was going to get to, and now I've totally forgotten. Let's go me on this. Hold on. It's going to come to me. This was a really good point, and I've now lost it.
Well, you made a good point though about like it, and that's, I don't know. We're saying go ahead.
Wait, well, hold on. I did remember it. So at the end of the Sky Sports broadcast, Crofty says McLaren may have the fastest cars, but they don't have the fastest driver. And I think what this is, no matter if the car is made for him or not, or whatever you believe in that sense, right? The fact is that he is the fastest driver in Formula One right now in 2025, being able to extract so much performance out of this car. And to further enforce that point, I was having a discussion with some people who were asking me about this, who, nowadays when I go around the world and people talk about racing, they talk to me about Formula One and not NASCAR because they all watch Drive Survive and that's what they figured out they think is racing. So nonetheless, I end up these conversations and they're asking me about Max. And I said, what's really spectacular to me is that if you look at top level motorsport, whether it's F1, NASCAR, IndyCar, sports cars, you would have to look really, really hard to find periods of time where a single driver in the same equipment is this much better than multiples that have come along into the second seat, right? And I mean, if you look at, there's periods of time maybe for months or types of tracks or or conditions, or maybe it's a single season with different rules that one driver sort of adapts that better than the other, and you get a discrepancy in speed. But to see this many drivers, which were now well over 5-6 at this point, that have come in there and not be close to him, this is unheard of. Like, it doesn't happen at top level motorsport. That's what also to me is so spectacular, to show you how good he is, that he's in another zip code. I was like, I can't think off the top of my head of other moments in the last 20 years that there's this level of dominance. If you look at Rubens Barrichello and Michael Schumacher, they were very close. Ferrari had to work hard to make it at times that Rubens didn't win races, and to the point of having him pull over and let Michael Schumacher by. When you had Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes and Nico Rosberg, obviously Nico Rosberg beat him over one season, at one point. If you look at Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber, they were so close. It was tough for them to make a choice on a number one. You just don't see this in the last 20, maybe even back to, people love to point out Senna versus Prost and the Senna lap at Monaco where he's over a second faster than Prost. Yes, that's one time, one thing, one situation, but it wasn't the course of a season. They were trading, blows constantly back and forth. this level of discrepancy for one driver over so many in the same equipment is just, to me, the most amazing part of this whole thing that we're seeing.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't think you see it. Like, let's just talk NASCAR side. Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, and Hendrick. Jimmy obviously goes on a tear of championships, but there wasn't like Jeff couldn't win races at one point.
Yeah, but that was that was not a too dissimilar of a delta between teammates.
Do you
Those
think
cars
he was-
came out of the same shop,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like those cars came out of the same shop, and Jimmy, year over year, was I would absolutely compare the two of those. My one thing though about that is this at this level, it is so like what am I trying to say? It is still so it's all of the ingredients together for Max's team, right? And his people, and then that whole organization and the way that they respond to Max, right? Like that is all what's driving that. So even though their cars aren't as a whole where they need to be, this potentially could just be magic that could only be captured with this group of people and that driver and that tenure.
Yep.
You take Max out, put him in another organization that doesn't know him as well. Yeah, he's still Max Verstappen. He's still going to be amazing, but he may not be able to carry a car on his back at another organization the way he does here.
Yep.
Right? Because there's so many people at that organization that know every little intricacy of his voice and the way what he's looking for and what they see in the data and how to respond to it on a weekend. And at this point, they're just cobbling together, hopefully a car that's capable of winning, right? And they're trying to get back to a place where he's not just, winning races in an interesting way. He's winning them, by 60 seconds like he was a couple years ago. But if you just pulled him out and put him at Ferrari or put him anywhere else, he might win. Don't get me wrong, but it's like what they've accomplished as an organization over the last decade with him is just, you've just caught that magic, right? And that's when you want to compare it to Jimmy Johnson. To me, that's what that 48 team was, right? It was like Jimmy Johnson was the best driver we've seen in NASCAR ever, right? He's the GOAT to me. But like that was so much of it was a package deal. It was a package deal. It was that whole team and the way they knew him, the way that their systems and processes were sort of built around how he communicated and what his, it just ends up being this, I don't know, virtuous cycle, I guess.
Yeah. He had Chad Knaus. He had the same car chief for that whole period of time. Those are really powerful things that you can't discount at all.
But the last thing I'll say about Red Bull on this is like, it is kind of amazing to watch this unfold where you're looking at Red Bull and almost think like it's a bit of a emperor has no clothes type deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because those cars are like you said, they're so on edge. It's almost like they're band-aiding their way to performance. They're not drivable. The second driver of those teams are running, can't even crack the top 10 in the last 3 weeks.
Nope.
It's like you lose Max Verstappen and all of a sudden they look no different than their junior team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and to that point, Isaac Hadjar was really fast all weekend, finished 8th for the B team, the Racing Bulls. And he actually had a funny issue in qualifying where his belts were too tight in the gentleman's region and had to fight through that. But the kid looks really quick. Seems like a bit of a head case on the radio, but he's definitely fast. He puts his emotions on his sleeve over the radio for sure.
The best ones are.
Yeah, sometimes they are. Yuki Tsunoda finished 12th in comparison to Max. So a decent outing, one of the best we've seen in the last 3 races compared to Liam Lawson, but definitely not what they were looking for. The one thing that was interesting in terms of the battle for the win, where McLaren may have had a chance to leapfrog Max, was they pitted. The reason they had this crazy duel off the pit road where they were side by side was they pitted right with him. Instead of sending Lando, who got within a second, whatever, close to that, instead of letting him, when Max decides to pit, go and try to, leapfrog him by going and ripping a bunch of fast laps. I guess they felt like the tires were at their max usage or whatever because they pitted him right with him. And in a race that was really hard to pass, it gave him no chance to try and rip some laps and get by him. So similar to what, on the opposite side of the spectrum of what the 24 team did at Darlington in NASCAR, where they went long, the McLaren decided to do the opposite and follow a leader into pit road and never even gave him a chance to try and rip some laps and see if he could be faster and leapfrog him. So with clean air.
Zach Brown said that clean air was worth 3 to 4 tenths per second per lap.
So yeah, why not do it? Didn't make any sense. So that's one they'll be digging through. They may have, I think in that respect, they kind of handed it to Max, just never gave Lando even a chance. So one last thing from F1 in practice. If you saw this, I know I sent it to you. Jack Doohan absolutely sent it into turn 1 at Suzuka with the DRS open, which is a flat out corner into turn 2, because in the sim, he had practiced doing the DRS open through that section, tried it in real life, and absolutely loses the rear of the car, fires off from the barrier in a massive wreck in practice.
Have you ever experienced an equivalent to that? Because I kind of had opinions on that.
I wondered if you had a story because I was trying to think of one and I couldn't off the top of my head. What is your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts is I'm very curious on how much effort, thought process, practice, research went into that whole experiment, because I've had several experiences in my life where I discovered something in the sim that was repeatable, that was to some similar degree, whether it was a corner you could go flat out in or something where you had to sort of pause yourself and realize that you were just hacking the sim and not actually doing, like, the sim wasn't actually giving you something that was actually possible. Right. And there's I'm trying to think of some good examples, but it's very similar stories at different tracks, right? And at the end of the day, you have to be able to make some sense of what you just discovered in the sim, and go, am I just hacking this? Did I just find? And the reason I say hacking the sim, that's like a common term for us. I don't know if you use that term very much, but we would always check ourselves and make sure we weren't hacking the sim, because it's a video game, right? It's a computer model of the race car. The sim isn't perfect. There's tons of holes in the sim, right? Half the time that we spend in the sim is developing the sim, right? To make it more accurate. So you find all kinds of hacks and loopholes and ways to extract speed out of the car that aren't physically possible. And then usually it's like, if you have a good engineering team, they identify those things with you and they go, yeah, that's not right. We got to fix that. You shouldn't be able to do that. Right. And so when I saw that immediately, that was my initial reaction, is like, well, he clearly found a hack in the sim that they were so convinced of that they took it to the track and tried it, and it was not.
Didn't work.
Didn't work.
You did make me think of one. Chicago, the first year when we had the sim for that, into turn 4 at the end of the backstretch, I found a way around the bumps that I tried to use in qualifying that year. And when we got to the second round, and I absolutely murdered the wall at the exit of 4. Ended up qualifying 10th forever, just killed the lap, because what I was trying to do was this weird line that you avoid the bumps and then you have like a shallow entry, but you can come at the same speed because the track's actually off camber on the outside. So then you can kind of stay almost a little bit more camber in the road, have a little bit more grip, and it sort of lands at the wall. And in real life, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
It was like, nope, that was not true. Okay, noted.
I had one that stands out was at Texas, an Xfinity car I could run wide open this sim in 3 and 4.
Oh yeah,
and it was
you
like,
can.
there's no way you can do this. This isn't, whatever we're doing in the sim is not right? Like it's something. It's either the temperature, or the grip settings, and a lot of times what you're doing, it's even more nuanced than that. And maybe we might be getting too boring here, but it is interesting if you're techie and care about this stuff.
That's what this show's for.
Sometimes sometimes you'll do that lap after lap, and then you realize, hey, we're way oversaturating the tire. By saturating, it's like you're putting way too much load through the tire, and the sim is not penalizing the tire for that, right? Where in real life, if you put that much load in the tire would give out, right? And the car would slide. But in the sim, maybe there was something wrong in the tire model or something they didn't see, that it was like you can just plow through the saturation levels of the tire and it'll still grip in the sim, right?
Mhm.
And the another version of the same thing, it's because it 99% of the time it has to do with the tire model. The another version of that is steering wheel angle. Like sometimes you'll just be in the sim, you'll be vibing, right? And it's like you're getting faster and faster and faster. And next thing you know, you've got like a whole extra handful of steering wheel in the sim that you would ever use in real life. You're just cranking the wheel, just in the sim cranking it, right?
Cranking it. I hope
And
it's clipped.
and you realize I've got we've like turning way too much steering wheel angle, way oversaturated the tires. There's something with the tire model here that's not reading right. And those are typical hacking the sim moments.
Has
Mm.
there ever been a moment where you thought you were hacking the sim and then it works? It actually works though.
Mm.
Because I remember with the next gen cars, I feel like I've seen this before, and a lot of the people who went on to help next gen teams develop some stuff from iRacing side found that slamming the brakes and the gas at the same time saved the car when it was getting really, really tricky to pick up. And then I think I've seen several times in real life where a driver does that, like William Byron, and it saves the car. So
Yeah, I mean that's kind of vehicle that works in everything basically.
That's a good point. That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I definitely feel. I guess the short answer to that is sometimes you do find little ticks. I think that's just finding tips and tricks in the sim that end up working in real life.
mhm.
So, I think that, and maybe that is to tie it all together and answer your question. I think that is the game you play from a driver's perspective in the sim is, hey, I found something in the sim, but I'm going to approach it at the racetrack with a level of cautiously optimistic, right? Where it's like, okay, if this was something like I just found a way to hold it wide open through a corner, uh I don't know if we're gonna try that, right? Like I don't know how I'm gonna get myself to try that. But if it's something smaller, like, hey, I discovered a little bit of extra brake pressure, a trail brake in this manner is a technique that works in the sim, I'm gonna try it in real life. Right. And then you'll make a note of that. You'll put it on your agenda to try in practice. And then you'll look at the data and you'll be like, okay, did I execute that? Did it work? Oh, no, I must have found like a little a hack in the sim. And here's an example of those. I found a hack in the sim at Phoenix one time that is fairly real, but it was just more responsive in the sim than in real life. I was driving with 2 feet through the middle of the corner, especially in turn 1 and 2 at Phoenix. And it was like I would brake into the corner, I would trail brake off, but I would pick up the throttle before I let off the brake completely.
Wait, I was doing that too.
And
I found
in
that
the
as well
sim
in the sim.
in the sim
Yeah,
or in the real life?
I started doing that in 2023. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And
I was trying to
so
get better there.
the reason being and where it the reason it works is because the short track tire, still it needs to have some longitudinal force to generate grip, right? So like not just vertical force, right? Vertical force squeezes the tire, that's banking, and that squeezes a tire that generates grip. And then, you turn the tire, lateral force, so when you turn the tire, it has to scrub a little bit, and that sort of bends the tire in the right way, and that generates grip. But also longitudinal force, forward and backwards, also generates grip. Think when you see an NHRA dragster in slow motion, right? And the tire's like got this twist to it. That's longitudinal force. Well, in the tire data, there's a certain amount of longitudinal force that is needed on the tire to meet peak grip levels. And so what I discovered in the sim was by always either having the brakes or the gas on, I was always had some kind of longitudinal force. So if I ever, released the brake and then rolled for any part of the corner, it would like release the longitudinal force of the tire and I would lose grip. Right. So in the sim, I just was over time and here's how you discover these things in the sim is there's no tire fall off in the sim. There's no weather changing the sim. You're running the same lap after lap after lap after lap. So as a driver, especially if you're really good and you pay attention to details, you can discover the most like minute details in the sim that are worth hundredths of a second. And so I found that one time and I showed that, or showed it to the engineers. I was like, hey, what am I doing here? Why am I doing that? Why is that worth speed? And so we looked in the data and they discovered that. And I was like, okay, I'll try that in real life. And it doesn't really translate to real life because that extra time on the brake pedal causes more brake heat. There's other factors that aren't really happening in the sim that, sort of negated whatever I gained in the sim, because what I gained in the sim wasn't tenths of a second. It was literally like 100th of a second. But you can see that's what's fun about the sim to someone like me that's like, it's so analytical about it, is finding 100th of a second in the sim is super repeatable. You do it over and over and over again. Right.
Yep.
Anyways.
It's fun in the sim when you're really on it and you do like 3 laps in their exact same lap time.
I did that one time. Yeah. Well, several times, but I had one time at Phoenix. I did like several 8-lap runs in a row and all 8 laps were identical. Just
no shit. 8?
Yeah.
What? I never did that.
It was just like over, like all just perfect laps over again. Just
robotic.
Just in the zone.
It's tough to do. It's really tough. Those who haven't tried it, trust us. Trust me, it's really, really tough. So you have to be pinpoint perfect to do that.
Parker, I want to tie the Doohan thing back to something that it made me think of. 1999 Spa, Jacques Villeneuve and Ricardo Zonta trying to do flat out into El Rouge.
Yeah. I mean, back then they didn't have the sim to try it. So they thought they
could their balls.
Yeah. And they tried and it had disastrous results of both of them destroying cars for BAR Honda at the time. So it's a good point. That's pre-sim. Josh, they couldn't get out and blame the sim on that one. On the flip side of the sim doing wrong for you, just on the positive side, and even an iRacing, which is a consumer version of simulation racing, Ollie Behrman, the young driver for Haas, said that he used the iRacing line for Suzuka, and that's where they were getting really close to the pit wall on the exit of the final corner and shortening the track. And obviously that was the line they were all running in qualifying. So it was worth some speed. For IndyCar,
first time I go to any road course in iRacing, I've got the iRacing line on. So
oh wow, that's funny. I never do that. I don't do that.
It's the best way to learn a road course.
Yeah. Yes. Damn. Didn't even think about it. I'll try it next time. Roger Penske, Nathan Brown texted this about IndyCar. By the way, IndyCar's heading to Long Beach this weekend. Long Beach Grand Prix. Josh is going. That'll be exciting.
Woohoo.
See what he comes up with. Roger Penske spoke at the IMS Museum opening on a couple topics, and this is from Nathan Brown. And he said, of note, he says IndyCar plans to debut its entire new car for 2027 rather than partially in 27, as has been said is the option. More stories coming on the Indy Star, so we'll see what happens there. IndyCar finally getting a new car, so that'll be fun. We did have some people ask for more MotoGP, and Josh, I'm gonna have to let you introduce this one because I don't know what you referenced here, but we do have MotoGP something. What is this?
I thought we talked about this. Austin, the whole start shenanigans when they were swapping up their bikes at the last second, and then they had to throw the red flag, abort the start, and then relined it up, and then drivers were upset because that wasn't the start procedure.
Riders.
Sorry, fans. But MotoGP is going to go ahead and review the regulations after that drama because people were upset. And I guess nobody loves chaos except for me as a fan. I adore it. But people in the industry do not like chaos. They like to have clear, defined rules. And they felt that the rules were not clear and defined on at what point enough drivers Riders. That's gonna take a second. Thank you so much. They want to kind of figure out a better thing to determine when an aborted start is necessary, given the amount of people swapping their bikes out at the last second and starting from pit lane and giving up their grid spot.
Yeah, and we should say that they swap their bikes when there's inclement weather, if they're deciding whether to be on slicks or wet tires or what tire they want to be on. Instead of changing tires in motorcycle racing, they just swap the whole bike. So they go get a different
Which
bike.
is kind of
Wild.
insane.
That's
That is
insane.
wild.
Yeah, crazy.
That tells you how, I don't know, how close they're by how well they're able to like build multiple bikes that are similar in setup.
Parker, what is their tech process? How do you tech a bike, and do you just send like 4 bikes through tech every race?
I actually don't know. I don't know how that works. We'll have to find out. We know some people in MotoGP. So obviously, friend of the show, Justin Marks, could tell us, owns a team. So maybe we'll have him on sometime. We'll drill into it. So that'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. How would they do sim? Would they go to the Dave and Buster's and they ride the side by side? I actually have never seen one. I don't know. I've never seen a motorcycle sim. That's a great point. If you're out there listening or viewing, give us a link. Drop it in the comments. Send it to us. We'd be interested. I want to see. I didn't look that. We'll have to look that up afterwards. What's a motorcycle sim, Mike? I don't know. Let's do picks, guys. And we mentioned, we didn't say it today, but top of most of these shows, we moved the PR lap to the end. So we did have a ton of reviews, some comments, and even a voicemail. We're going to do that after this. We're going to do picks real quick. We've got Cup and Xfinity and Truck at Bristol this upcoming weekend, and IndyCar is at Long Beach. Josh, where F1 this weekend? Bahrain?
Yes, I was surprised by that too.
I didn't realize we were doing a doubleheader like that.
Yeah,
so they're in Bahrain. So we got a big weekend of racing to pick here. So Landon, we'll let you lead the way. Give us your Cup, Xfinity, Truck, Formula One, IndyCar picks.
So Cup, I'm gonna go with my heart on this one, and I don't really care. I think Kyle Busch. It's just time to see him win. Come on. I think Bristol's a good place for him to do it. It's probably not going to happen, but if he does, I'll look like a genius. Xfinity, Justin Allgaier.
Okay.
Truck, Parker Kligerman.
Yeah, let's go.
Formula One, Bahrain, that's going to be Landon Norris. Track's fast.
It is. IndyCar?
I was just going to say I would love to pick Max and stay on that Max train, but I don't think they have the speed for that place.
No.
IndyCar, where's IndyCar? Long Beach? Ooh.
Long Beach.
Scott McLaughlin.
Is that a lock?
Scott. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. For me, Cup, Bristol, PJ1 back. Ooh, Denny could go 3 in a row here. But I'm going to say he's going to bounce back and continue where he left off in the summer race there last year. Kyle Larson wins in Cup. Xfinity, I'm going to say Christian Eckes gets his first win in Xfinity. Little momentum from last week. AJ was always faster in the colored cars. Let's see what he pulls off. Truck's me, of course. Done. Winning. Yep. We're going to go back-to-back on the year. F1, it's hard to choose against Landon Norris there. I agree with that. But Ferrari has been good at Bahrain in the past. Do I go crazy? Charles Leclerc. I said Charles Leclerc, not Hamilton.
Wow, you started typing Hamilton.
You started typing Hamilton. I was not saying
sorry.
that.
Whoa, you tell me I want to burn
that
the
was
world
unbelievable.
That was pretty funny. That was pretty funny. Josh is writing our picks down as we say them, and he was trying to write Hamilton. IndyCar, I'm going Colton Herta. I don't know why, but I think he's always really fast at Long Beach. If they even have a semblance of a good car, as long as he can keep it out of the wall, Colton Herta.
Interesting. You guys are. Yep. I love these picks. I am shocked you chose Leclerc over Hamilton after you've been. Oh, this is Hamilton's 8th title season.
I know.
This is. Oh man,
just give it to me.
Roasted for. Okay, you got it.
Let me have it.
Cheers.
Let me have it.
Hey,
all right.
cheers.
Should we do we have a voicemail came in this week. Can we listen to it?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Hey there, it's Crazy M80 again. First time listener, long time caller. Question for you guys this week. what is the best sponsorship engagement that you guys have been a part of that worked out very well for yourself and for your sponsors, or the best one that you know of? Like, I can imagine Landon, having been sponsored by Voyager, and the fact that he didn't even get paid in real money was probably up there as far as being beneficial for the sponsor. But I just want to see what was the best one that you guys can think of that you were either a part of or that you just can think of in general. Thanks, guys. Great show. Hey there.
Wait a second. First of all, thank you for the voicemail. If you would like to leave us a voicemail, you can do that at moneylap.com. There's a little click a spot and you can leave us a voicemail. Landon, I think you got paid money on that.
Well, cryptocurrency is real
That's
money,
true.
right?
That's right. Yeah. The team did.
aside from how everything turned out in the aftermath, my Voyager deal I think was definitely, that one was a fun one for me because how many people were invested in Voyager as a just in cryptocurrency in general, that made it fun while it lasted. Then obviously the pendulum can swing completely the other way, because then when things go sideways and people lose their money, then they're not nearly as supportive or excited about it. But shouldn't laugh. But yeah, that part was not as fun. I enjoyed the Snap Fitness sponsorship, was a fun one for me too, just because it was healthy and fitness, and we did a lot of cool stuff. I ran from the Speedway after the Coke 600. I ran 13 miles to the Hall of Fame. That was a lot of fun. We did a lot of cool stuff in market at tracks. So we would go to a Snap Fitness, meet up with people, do like plank competitions and things. That was fun.
Oh, I remember that when you ran after the Coke 600.
And then usually anytime you have an alcohol sponsor, that's usually fun too.
That was good. Yeah, Spike Coolers is a lot of fun for me. It's a lot of fun to bring them out to the Boulevard at Talladega. Like this 2023 April, we finished third and was in the fight for the win. And then I went out that night and I had someone gave me this belt that was like a holster belt that had all these pockets. And so I lined it with Spike Cooler pouches and went out on the Boulevard looking ridiculous. Yeah. And this is like handing them out to people and drinking them with people. That was a lot of fun. So that was a good one. For me,
if I could do it all over again, have it just like to exclusively have alcohol sponsors, you're guaranteed to have a good time.
Every time. Doesn't matter what's happening on the track. You're gonna have a good
people
time.
Are gonna love you. Fans are gonna you just guaranteed to have a good time.
It's the best. The only other one I'd point out just in terms of activation, obviously, was the Fast deal, the one-click checkout company that I was associated with. We did the first hoodie giveaway we did was Watkins Glen Trucks. It was when there was no qualifying, so I'd start dead last, and we came up with this promotion, top 5. We give away $5 hoodies or something, and we finished 5th after starting dead last. That was pretty cool. And then of course we did the Cup car at Kansas, ran super well, and did dollar hoodies, and they did something like 60,000 hoodies or something, which was insane off the QR code and the onboard camera. So that was nuts. And I still see those hoodies to this day.
Yeah.
So all over the place. Yeah, they're everywhere, Josh. I mean, it's wild. Every track I go to on social media, there's someone always tagging me about the Fast hoodie. So that was cool. And every time someone would get one, they'd post it and I'd retweet it. And that was a lot of fun. So I enjoyed that. That was cool. It was cool interaction. It was cool to give the fans something, see the just the interaction it had, and to sort of all the people that just got involved with it was super cool. And it was cool. The car looked always great because it was just fast on a race car, which to me was so cool. I love that sponsor. So let's talk about some of the reviews. We've been mentioning 5-star reviews from Apple get on this very show. We had a ton recently. Thank you all. We appreciate that. We're up to 218. This one says, awesome all-around racing show. Love the perspective that Parker and Landon give about not only NASCAR, but IMSA, F1, and IndyCar. We even did MotoGP today. The Money Lap Show is your one-stop shop for motorsports. The addition of special guests this season has been nothing short of fantastic. Keep it up. I can't get enough behind the scenes and technical info you shared. See, Landon, I like that. Please never shy away from that. It's never boring. Lastly, Parker, please keep trying to run sports cars. It's been fun to watch and pull for your success in that form of racing. I listen every week and will continue to do so. Thank you. Appreciate that. Nice. That was Nick U15. And this next one is an unpronounceable set of letters. I'm going to do this one. You can take the next couple. This says the most fun podcast. And now I have to enlarge it because I can't read it. Oh, man. I hope I'm not getting old, right? No. Really love the scope and breadth of motorsports you guys talk about. This show is a lot of fun to listen to, even though most of the episodes feel like they're going off the rails. Wait a second. I appreciate the nuance of the discussions and how both of you can share your opinions and discuss the details of motorsports without taking yourselves too seriously. Also, Parker, you're killing it on the CW booth on Saturdays. Really enjoy your enthusiasm both in the booth and on this. Well, he says the bad word. He says podcast. We mean show. Thanks for all the hard work, guys. Keep it up. Thanks.
I appreciate that. Because I had a tweet this weekend about the tariffs basically and Lionel raising their prices on, and I think I said something along the lines of how prices are going up, lead times are going longer, make them in the USA, which it got a pretty mixed response. Some people were passionately angry about the tweet.
Surprising.
And it's like, I guess I don't take me too seriously sometimes. If you agree. If you don't, that's fine too. Because at the end of the day, do I really think that we can snap our fingers and manufacture die-cast in the US tomorrow and they'd be higher quality for a lower price with less lead time? Absolutely not. But what I was tweeting about, I guess, was just in reaction, my annoyance of like, oh, good. The die-cast manufacturer that has 10-month lead times has gone down in quality, has gone up in prices over the last decades, is letting us know that they have to raise their prices for the tariffs. Thank you. Good.
Awesome. It'll still be 8 to 9 months till you get a damn diecast.
Yeah,
great work.
Like, it's still gonna be 9 months before you can get a diecast. And whatever. Thanks. Yep. Cool. Yep. And that's in a way, it's like that's where my tone is like, cool. Make them in the US. I don't care. Oh, they're gonna be 300 a piece. Sure.
Cool.
Fine. Who cares? Cool. Maybe great. So anyways, you give me the long reviews. This one's from Shell Shock 700. Solid show, more MotoGP.
Great job. That was the whole review. Yeah, it was 5 stars though. And it said
here's another one from Richie. I grew up primarily a NASCAR fan, but the last few years I've been trying to keep up with all the forms of motorsports. Parker and Landon do a great job giving the news on all motorsports, and I've learned a lot. Cool. Me too. I've learned a lot too. Mostly because of Parker. Ooh, this is a big one. Patty Mahomes. I don't know if there's any relation there. Greatest NASCAR show in the business. Parker and Landon bring humor, insights, we're a comedy show, and a closer look to each and every race weekend and give us the best show to watch twice a week. Big fan of the Wednesday show. That's right. We're twice a week now. For those of you who don't know, we're twice a week now. Been following on Instagram for a while, but that's a testament. Shout out to our content team.
Let's go.
We're getting that short form. Following on Instagram for a while, been following up on every episode since the beginning of the season. Great. So we converted Patty from an Instagram watcher of the reels to the actual show. That's pretty cool. I love that. Speaking of kind of cool, interesting insights, do you remember last year when I was in New York and I was at J. Crew?
Yep.
And the retail worker at J. Crew recognized me and said that they loved our show.
Yep.
So this weekend I was in Chicago and I was at Suit Supply in downtown Chicago.
Love Suit Supply, by the way.
And I asked this dude working there, and I'm ashamed to say that he told me his name and now I forgot it. I asked the dude working there, I was like, you guys have any sunglasses? And they're like, wow, we used to. And I was like, shoot, because I've been looking for sunglasses. And he goes, are you Landon? And I was like, yes. Who's asking? He was like, I watch your show with Parker. I was like, thanks, man.
Let's go.
That's cool. He was like, I didn't know you lived in Chicago. And I was like, I don't. Just
so we've got the menswear, high-end menswear.
So I'm starting to see a pattern here. Let's see a pattern here.
Yeah,
just like
I love it.
Handsome dudes that want to dress well. Listen to the Money Lap.
Bam. If you want to be considered handsome and that you dress well, you just listen to the Money Lap.
If you listen to the Money Lap, you are more likely than not a handsome dude that dresses well. How about that? Listen to that.
That's our new tagline. There it is.
That is a scientific fact. It's a study. We just did a study. The patterns have emerged.
Yeah.
And there goes our 5% female audience is now gone. Congratulations.
No, the female audience is going up.
Yeah, way up.
If
you're an audience member,
yeah,
and you want to find handsome dudes who dress well,
you need to listen to the Money Lap. Just brush up on what's going on in the Money Lap, and then what you do
the best
is
dating advice ever.
when you go out to a bar and you're like, I need to meet the man of my dreams. I need to meet a handsome dude that dresses well. You just go up to him and start talking about the money lap. He'll know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Or even just this is the icebreaker. Do you listen to the money lap? If
Yeah.
they say yes, credible dude. You can trust.
Well, the chances are they're a handsome dude that dresses well. They probably do. They probably listen to the money lap.
Exactly. And if they don't, I wouldn't trust them. There you go. Pretty simple. Best dating advice we had. We had a couple more, by the way. What's that?
You go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Renee, possibly one of our female audience members out there. Another great show as always. And screw that guy with the bad YouTube review. Jay Bushesny says, Uncle Landon was fed up today. Get back in the car soon. Show him how it's done, Unc.
I wonder what that was in reference to. What was I fed up with?
I can't remember. We talked about so many topics.
Probably Sammy Smith, but
Oh,
maybe.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That was last week.
Mather.
That was an Uncle Landon episode for sure.
That definitely was. Uncle Landon was in full effect.
Oh my God.
Uncle's here. Mather and Tim.
One time when we were training at the GM Tech Center, I was like, I don't know what I did. I was like, outdid somebody on pull-ups or something, and Ross Chastain called it old man strength. He said I got the dad strength.
That's very true. Very true. Madeline Tim said, great job on the podcast. They meant show. Include a little bit more high limits racing. I guess he's referencing Larson and Brad Sweet's Sprint Car Series. F1 is still boring, and what a great Martinsville race. Not sure why it got such a low rating on the Gluck poll. And Stony Grizz 95 said, I think the only misinformation from this show is that you didn't win the truck race at Daytona. It makes me sad you weren't allowed to have that win. Great show. Keep up the great work. Thanks. All right. Well, oh my goodness. You even picked him to win.
Well, I picked him for the win, and then he immediately left to go get in the sim, and so he could
get ready because he was listening to our sim tips. That was Kyle Busch. He's not here in the green room anymore. Once again, April 7th, 2025, 5:35 p.m., finishing this recording, we have lost him. We apologize profusely, but Kyle Busch will not be here this weekend. But we're going to try for next time. A little update on Wednesdays for the next 2 weeks. Potentially, I can't do Wednesdays the next 2 weeks. So we might not be there. We're going to figure it out. We'll see. But if we aren't, we will see you definitely next Monday.
Get Landon. Landon, you're going to be there Wednesday, right?
Landon, can you be there Wednesday?
I suppose I'll have to fill the gap.
You'll have to. We'll see if we can make it happen.
I can't do the next Wednesday, but I can do this Wednesday.
Oh,
we've solved it. We've at least got one. We got
a
one.
Wednesday show.
I think I can do next Wednesday too. I don't know.
We got Wednesday.
You know what?
Shows.
When Wednesday comes, we'll figure out if I'm there or not. How about that?
Oh boy. Well, stay tuned. We may or may not have some Wednesday shows. That's it for us in the Money Lap. Peace.
Thank you so much for watching and listening to the Money Lap. If you like this show, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Share it with friends. We want to spread the word of great motorsports shows, of which we're somewhere up and around there. I'm not exactly sure where, but nonetheless, you can also reach out to us anytime on across social media or at our website, themoneylap.com, or at our email, friends@themoneylap.com. And of course, you can always leave us a review. 5 stars gets you on this very show. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Goodbye.